Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. J, and for this video today I wanted to take you guys through a little bit of my planning. I know a lot of times I get questions on how do we use so many different resources in our homeschool, and I want to show you guys some of the things that I do to integrate those different resources into our homeschool day. I'm not going to take you through my entire planning process because that will be a really long video, so I'm going to actually separate things out. What I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is specifically how do I develop our master calendar with what are the actual subjects we're going to be doing and what days will we be doing those subjects, and how do I do our weekly day-to-day planning so everybody knows what they're doing on each day, and I know that I have the resources that we need for each particular day within a week. So my planning process is about a 3-phase process. The first phase is just when I'm deciding on what subjects are we going to do. We tend to do a lot of subjects, and I'll be able to show you guys with our schedule how we can do a lot of those different subjects. Sometimes it's integrating things in together, and sometimes it's just kind of looking at what sort of things have overlap, and we can count those things instead of doing something completely new. So I have my subjects that we're going to do. Some subjects are not negotiable. Math, we always do math all the time. That's just always going to be in the calendar. Reading and writing, that is a constant with us. It's always going to be in the calendar. Because we have a STEM-based homeschool, science, technology, and engineering are always going to be in our calendar. One of the things that I do that tends to be a little bit different from other homeschoolers is that I have an overarching topic of social studies. And the reason why I have that overarching topic of social studies is because we tend to integrate history and geography together, and so we will not spend our time you won't see for us to have like an ancient Egypt study or an study on the Romans or the Greeks as an independent course. That's actually going to be covered when we do geography because of the way that we do geography. And so I can have history, geography, cultures, all those sort of things all wrapped into that social studies overarching category. So, and then also, even though we use multiple math programs, when I'm looking at the course, I'm just going to call it math when I'm doing my primary course design, and then I'm going to break out things even more from there. So I really look at what are the things I want to make sure that we get to for this school year. Once I have decided on what classes we're going to do, the next thing that I'm going to do is our weekly basic schedule, and I have a weekly basic schedule for each child. And what's included in the weekly basic schedule, those are just the list of all the courses that they're going to be doing, what days we're probably going to be doing those courses, and also what outside activities do I need to account for in their calendar, because some outside activities like dance affects our calendar, because I know that if one of my children has, let's say, 2 dance classes on the same day, if they're going to have 2 hours of dance, I have to make sure that they have enough rest and all that sort of stuff in the leading up to that, so that I won't really load up that day with stuff that we can do on a day we don't have that. I want to look in my master calendar and see what days do we have outside classes, because I know in addition to that class time, we also have some travel time that I don't need that travel time when we're doing online classes. And so just having that master schedule and knowing when we're leaving, when we're going to stay home, what else is happening in our lives, that's going to make things a whole lot easier for me. So that's what that weekly basic schedule is about. The way that when I put my topics in here, I'm also putting in topics as I'm planning their class, okay, as I'm doing their curriculum planning, because since we use so many resources, and since we don't use just one resource for any subject, there are zero subjects that we do where I only use one resource. That's just always been a part of my homeschool philosophy. I want to make sure that my kids learn things in as many different ways as possible. I want to, even if there's a style that they don't necessarily love, I'm still going to integrate a little bit of that into our homeschooling. And the reason is because I'm preparing them, it's not just about educating them for now, but it's also preparing them to go out in the real world. And in the real world, sometimes you have to do things in a way that you may not necessarily like it, but you still have to do it in those ways. And that probably comes from the fact that I worked for the government, the federal government, for 11 years. And so I understand that sometimes you have to do some things inefficiently, and sometimes you have to, follow some guidelines and processes and policies that it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, but you still have to follow them in that way. So if my child wants to be, one of my kids is really interested in aeronautical engineering and rockets and rovers and that sort of thing. Well, there are policies all over the earth that affect things such as the building, design, and launching of rockets. It doesn't matter what you think. You have to follow the laws, the local laws, if you're going to launch rockets in that area. There are some chemicals that are subject to the Geneva Convention and other international agreements. And so it doesn't matter if this particular chemical would make the most sense for this particular process. If that is a banned substance when it comes to launching, then you have to work around that very real restriction. And so I want to make sure that my kids do not get so focused on doing it their way that they are rigid and immovable, and that they won't have real life success because it's, my way or the highway. And you have these international organizations saying, well, it's the highway, see ya, And so that's why, I don't subject them to 8 hours a day of doing things they hate. But we do integrate lots of different things in lots of different ways, so that even though there may be a way that's best for them, in a way that they like, if something comes at them in a different way, they won't be messed up or taken off course. So that's why I use so many different resources, and I introduce things in so many different ways, because I want my kids to be flexible, and I want my kids to be ready for whatever the world may throw at them. Depending on what type of school they want to go to, there's going to be different lecture styles. There's going to be different class requirements. Sometimes you're going to have, almost a one-on-one situation at some schools. Other schools, you may be in a lecture hall of 300 people. Can you learn in all those different ways? But we're going to test all that out through our homeschool process. So that's kind of the method behind the madness of using so many different things and integrating so many different things into our curriculum. So in our weekly schedule for each child, it has, what are the subjects that we're doing, and also what are some of those outside things that affect our day. For instance, we do 4-H, and 4-H, we're going to be meeting this school year twice a month. So 2 Mondays a month we'll be doing that. Well, I know that that's going to take some time. That's going to be a couple hours because we have to drive there. We're going to be doing the activities. And so I know that my Mondays have to look a very specific way because they're going to be affected by that outside activity. So once I have our basic schedule, this also goes to my husband so that he kind of knows what our days look like, where are we when. If I'm under the weather and he is home and taking over homeschool duties, or if we have to, ask somebody else to come in, like my in-laws, and say, okay, well, the kids have to be here on this day at this time. Can you handle that for me? So that's why I like having that master calendar. It's not just for me and my planning. It's so that if other people need to know where we are, what we were doing, what was supposed to happen, that can happen. And then I finally get to our weekly planning. And our weekly planning, that's where I parcel things out day by day. And what happens is, first I build our courses. Our courses are built, I use a lot of my planning, I use Evernote, or I just type it out on my computer. No big deal. But I do build each course because this is where I see how I'm going to pull in all my different resources. And what I will do is I will use Salamander, his schedule for you guys, because that one is a little bit easier to see. So with Salamander, we have his Monday through Friday set out. And so on his Monday, we know that every day is math, but on Mondays and Wednesdays, that's when he's doing Beast Academy. For my weekly schedule, I actually put in what Beast Academy book are we working out of and what chapter are we working out of. And I do that because when I'm putting that chapter in there, that's also letting me know what manipulatives I may need to pull, what videos I may need to pull, what I need to look for in what he's going to be doing in challenge math on that Friday. And so having my courses designed in modules, it allows me to easily pull from those modules and dump that into that week, so that it's not just about, okay, next workbook page in Beast Academy. No, everything we're doing, it needs to be strategic and it needs to have a purpose behind it. And I need to make sure that when he's ready to work for the day, I have given him all the tools that he needs to work for that day. And so what I'll do is, on his desk will be this. Okay, it doesn't have the books in it because I'm putting all the books in it now. So he'll have this book. So his Beast Academy 3A workbook will be in here. Just like Faster Fox's 3A workbook will be in there for her. And then I will have the textbook because they both work out of the same textbook. Okay. And then any manipulatives that they may need go in this box. Okay. And then in this box goes any additional printed pages that they may need for that, calculator, pencils, pens, glue, tape, anything like that that might be needed for that week is going to be in there. Okay. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's CTC math. So they don't need any books or anything like that because that's done online. But I know it. And then they know that when they finish a module on CTC, they print it out and then they can put it in here. But really, they got to the point where they control their own binders, their personal binders. And so they will print out their resources. Once they finish that module, they'll print out the results and they'll just put it in their binder and I can look at it from there. And then on Friday, challenge math, I have that book. They don't have their own copies of that, so that won't be in their newspaper holder, or book holder. But I know I have on their calendar what we're doing for challenge math, so that I can pull that out. And I know that if I need to grab it, make any copies from it, or grab any additional resources, I can do that. So that's for math for that week. The next thing is language arts. And then language arts is broken into two sections. Okay. The first is reading, writing, and grammar. And that's just tackling our phonics a little bit more. making sure we get a little bit stronger in our spelling and our grammar. And so Mondays and Wednesdays, we have the logic of English. And I put essentials. I showed you guys that book. And then I put what chapter we should be on at that time. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have Michael Clay Thompson Language Arts. And then Friday, right now, we're not yet in the Friday section for Michael Clay Thompson to be added in. So what we do is, if there's anything that we need to finish from Logic of English, we can do that on Friday. So we have a good stop where we know we can do a chapter each week, or a lesson each week, because it's divided by lessons rather than chapter. So we know we can do a lesson each week. The reason why I do that is because that gives me a feel for how long the program is going to take us, because at some point Logic of English is going to fall off our schedule, and I will know that there's something that I need to do at that time slot. The next level for him, still in that language arts category, is reading, and that's where his Sound Out series comes in. So I know that's in there for Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays is when he's choosing his own book. It's right there on the calendar, so he knows it and I know it, that we need to know what book he's going to be reading on Tuesday. So he doesn't choose the book on Tuesday. We need to have that book chosen by Monday at the latest, so that that book is in here and ready to go for the week. He's going to need 2 books. Okay. Also, in that time, when I see reading book of choice, it's not just that he's reading the book. He needs to read the book to himself, and then we sit down, and that's when we talk out and we go through that Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. So for book of choice, I can get a feel for it. Right now, he's not at 2 books a week. He'll do 1 book. Okay. And then that Thursday is when we can sit down, we can do Bloom's taxonomy. If there's anything, we can kind of go back over things, and I can ask him to read some of the passages from me, pick out some of the things that were most intriguing for him, and then he can read those things to me, so I can kind of look at his fluency. But when he does the Sound Out series, he's actually reading that with me right there. So that's where I get my primary fluency check from him. But I still know that even when he's reading books of his choice, I still want to see how he's doing that. Also, on Friday with that Sound Out series, because he's reading so many of those books on Mondays and Wednesdays, on that Friday, that's when we're also doing those eye teaming activities. So the next thing on his schedule is literature. My kids are going to be doing a literature circle this year with 2 other families, and I had to build that into our calendar. And so I have that the first book that they're doing for their literature circle is One Crazy Summer. And so because that's a little bit more of an advanced book, I got the Audible edition for the twins, because it's not just about the reading, it's a very meaty book, and this is used for literature. So this is all about discussing the book with your peers, and what did you get out of it? What stuck out to you? How did, when this particular thing happened, what do you think was the purpose behind it? Do you agree with their decisions? Let's do some character analysis. That's what this activity is for. And so they don't have to physically read the book, because I'm not looking at reading. This is literature, not reading. So I'm testing reading and reading comprehension. We're doing that when we're doing Bloom's taxonomy and when we're doing those other books. Literature is a different animal, and I have to, that's why when I did my planning and I wrote out my planning, that's why I separated language arts and literature, because literature is really, it's not just about did you comprehend what you read, but now we get to play with it and discuss it, and also discuss it with other people who are different from us in lots of ways. They don't live in our house. Some of them don't have our same culture. None of us have the same religious ideas and beliefs. And so this is when they get to spread their wings a little bit and have some discussion and some discourse and grow in those particular areas. So that's integrated in there. And then that is 3 days a week. So 2 days a week, we're going to tackle the book. And then 1 day a week is that literature circle. And we do that twice a month. Okay. And then what do we do when we don't do the literature circle for that twice a month? That's when they're doing their own sort of thing. Like my kids, they really enjoyed Harry Potter, so they're doing a big lap book together on Harry Potter. And also for that literature circle time, that's when they're kind of prepping, going through, we're talking about what's the next book that they want to do, that sort of stuff. They're also doing some geography work with the same group of kids. And so on one of those Thursdays, they'll be prepping for that. They're also doing a history of science course with other kids. And so that fills in those days when we're not doing literature circle. Other things in there, 1 day a week, he's doing outside class for NXT and Scratch. And so those are our technology boxes being checked. And I can see clearly, I say where they're taking those classes at. So I know that we're leaving for that. So it's not just the class time that I'm looking at. It's also travel time that I'm looking at. That impacts what I'm doing for the rest of the day on that as well. Also his 4-H is on there because that's on Mondays. Then his building unit. Now his building unit, this is a class that I had to create from scratch. So it's not compiling different things in together. It's actually building this class from the ground up. And so I have a book that I'm using as my spine, but it's not a textbook. So I still had to build this class from the ground up. And so I have put in there, not just that he's doing the building unit, but what is he doing that first week? Okay, I had to write in there, you're going to be setting up your binder. So I have to have his binder in here ready to go. And the materials that he'll be using to build his binder will be in here. And then also he's going to be starting that first chapter. Or the first module that we're going to be looking at, which is going to be on structures, and we're going to be paying special attention to the structural and frameworks and roofs and the role of roofs, because on that Friday, one of his activity that he's going to be doing for the module is doing a waterproofing roofs activity. And so just so that I've already bookmarked the site, but I also put the site right here in the slot so that I can just go in there and print out everything and have it ready to go. I know my materials list. I have all my materials ready. Every material that he's going to need for that activity is going to be right in this box that sits at his desk. So we're ready to go. The next thing down is earth science. That's going to be what we're going to be focusing on for this year. That's another class that I did most of the building for it because we're integrating a lot of different resources into it. So I actually put on there earth science. First thing we're going to be doing is getting binders together. But what we're going to be doing, layers of the earth. Now, that is a topic. It doesn't need to take a week because we can knock out layers of the earth in 1 day because it's not that deep. It's not new for them, but I still wanted to go over it to make sure we had it because it just made sense to structure that into the course. So that's on that Monday. On Tuesday, we are doing not just layers of the earth, but we're also going to get into geological maps. Okay, another big part of earth science is mapping. That's not an activity that I needed to spend a whole lot of time with my kids because they're pretty familiar with maps. But I wanted to make sure that we went over what specifically are geological maps and how are they different. So that's Monday, we get our binders together and we start with layers of the earth. Wednesday, we add in the geological maps. And then Friday, my kids are active on DIY.org. They have a ton of challenges. So Friday, they have their DIY challenge that they're going to complete for a badge. And that one is to make a geological model. And it is, I have specifically in there, DIY challenge, geologist, make a geological model. And it should have some relevance to the study that we have in, that we've been doing. And so that's in there for them. and everybody has that same one. They can pick whatever challenge on DIY they want to, as long as it is under the geological model activity on there. So that's what we're doing. So I don't have to create a whole new activity, because I've been through what the challenges are. I know we have the materials around our house, so that any of those challenges that he chooses, he can do, and I won't have a problem with it. He could just go into our resource room that we have. We call it the quiet room, but really that's where all of our stuff, all the maker stuff, all the tinkering stuff, all that kind of stuff is in that room. So they know they can go in there, get their stuff together, build their model, show it to me, take their pictures, upload it onto DIY, and put in for that patch. And then the next thing, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's where we have social studies. Social studies, that combines history, that combines geography for us right now. Those are the two subjects that are really under social studies for us right now. A combination of geography and history, because we're doing history through geography. So it says, you're going to work with your siblings and you're going to select your country. Once they select their country from the resources that we have and pull it out, then I can make everything else. But the way that I wrote their geography program, the graphic organizers are already done. The challenges are already done. Everything they need to do is already done. So it doesn't matter what country they choose. I have resources for every country that they could choose. Okay. And that's over planning, but we're going to be on this for a long time. Multiple years. Is going to be a long-term project for us. And so we're going to get to it eventually. And so I didn't have to write out as much, because I did so much planning on the front end for that course. And so I could just say, select your country and get started. They will know the routine, but there's nothing I need to go out and do. They already have everything they need. So it doesn't matter if they choose Nigeria or Guam or Turkey, Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Bolivia. Doesn't matter. Whatever they choose, I have everything that they're going to need for that already. So I don't have to worry as much about that. It's all in the same place. I can just grab it and go. And it wouldn't go in their box anyway, because they're going to be working together on those activities. Next is typing. Typing is twice a week. I just put it in there. It's no big deal. That's on Mondays and Wednesdays. That's online, of course. And so everybody just has their password, but their passwords are already saved at all the computers. But the passwords are on their sheet as well, in case something happens. If the cache gets erased, that's fine. Nobody panics. We just put the password in again. That's Mondays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays is Health with Mom. Everybody is going to do health a little differently. Faster Fox is going in the care and keeping of you. Speedster is doing a body book, as well as working on some other stuff. Salamander is going to do health more from kind of a human anatomy. We're still at the higher level for him, because a lot of things Faster Fox, girls are going to go hit puberty a little bit earlier than boys. And so Faster Fox, I need to prep her for it, because she's starting to show the signs that this is necessary for us to do the next step in prepping, where we don't have things up in the atmosphere. It's time for us to talk about the nitty gritty of this is about to happen. Whereas Salamander, we're still a little bit more in the theoretical aspect of things. He doesn't need the nitty gritty just yet for this is what's happening to your body, because right now nothing's happening to his body. But we still want to hit those things like, appropriate touch, not appropriate touch, dealing with not just stranger danger, but familiar people danger and that sort of stuff. So just having those one-on-one conversations. This is also where we do healthy eating and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a class for that. That's just kind of like what we do as a family. That's a lifestyle sort of thing. So it wouldn't matter if we were homeschooling or not. Still have to teach those things. But that's just a space where we can hit that. Right now, all he's doing is putting up his binder because it's the beginning of the school year for us. Thursday, because we're going to be out doing our literature circle or our geography group, we probably, and then they'll be playing with each other after that. So we don't have a whole lot left after that. So that's what we have for that line. And then the rest is kind of what are those outside, his dance classes are in there, track meets, that sort of stuff. And so that's done for each child for each week. And so I do day-to-day planning. I only do day-to-day planning in these weekly calendars for about 3 to 4 weeks out. The reason is because I don't want to go through all the trouble of saying this is what we're going to be doing this day, and then something happened. There's an unplanned field trip that we just can't turn down, or somebody gets sick, or we go out of town for some reason, and then the whole thing is messed up and I have to, go and change all these dates and stuff like that. I don't want to even stress myself out like that. There is detailed planning in each lesson, so in each curriculum that I built. So because I already built his building course, all I have to do is cut and paste what was next in that course into our weekly plan. And so it's not that I'm planning, the day-to-day planning is not me having to go out and design and create. I already did the design and create. Right now it's just scheduling. And so that's what these weekly schedules are all about. The design and create, that nitty-gritty background stuff, that's what I've been doing over the summer while they've been in camps. And so, but this is the way that I'm able to integrate so many different things into our homeschool, is because I start with what classes do I want them to have. And then I go in and design those classes, and that's when I pull in a lot of different resources. And then I found that if you don't schedule, if I don't do that really detailed daily schedule each week and have it for 1 to 2, 3 weeks out, then all that stuff just stays on the shelf. So it doesn't matter if I own it, if we don't use it. And it doesn't matter if, I don't want to be in a situation where I had this, especially when they were younger, where I would have something on my shelf and, right when they grew out of it, I would remember that it was there and we didn't get to it. And it's like, okay, you had all this, really these gadgets and that gadgets and you didn't. And that's when I started to implement this type of planning so that I didn't miss the things that we had, and that I was pulling things out and putting things together as I needed them to. And now that's why everybody still has their plastic bins with the 3-drawer wheel bins by their desk. That's where I keep the big curriculum stuff, the plan stuff, all that kind of stuff that I'm pulling things out of. That's in their drawers. But I found that for us, the thing that makes sense is to not have them overwhelmed with the whole big packet, the whole big course at one time, the whole big everything at one time, but just giving it to them a little bit at a time as they needed it. Then it didn't get so overwhelming. Then things didn't just get lost. It also made sense because my kids do leaps. And so what happens with a leap? This is something that happened to us with Math Mammoth. Okay, with Math Mammoth, I would print out when second grade, when Faster Fox was doing the first semester, she did Math Mammoth a little bit, and I printed out the entire 3A, 3B. Okay, print it out, and then it tells you, give your child the post test. That's how you're supposed to do the program. Give the child the post test, and if they make 80% or better on the post test, then you skip it. Well, she made 80% or better on all the post tests. So I had printed out hundreds of pages that we didn't need. And so it was this big binder that I had spent all this time printing out, all this ink printing out, all this paper printing out, all this 3-hole punching and putting it together. and the book is still blank because she didn't need it. And so you know, when you have kids that have those leaps, you just, you know, doing too much pre-work is not good. Where I put most of my efforts in my pre-work is geography. You ain't gonna leap over a country, especially one you never heard of before or one you haven't studied before. So that I can do my pre-work for. My science. The reason why I did my pre-work for earth science is because every single day we have a lab. Everything that we learn in science, it is hands-on first. And then we read about it, we view videos on it, we talk about it, we experience it, we explore. We tend to have at least 2 field trips a month for the science topics that we're dealing with. And so for science is all in. Your hands, your feet, your head, every single part of your body is into science. So I do a ton of things for that, because even if they leap over some concepts, they still need to play with a little bit, and I still need to make sure that they know how to do scientific reporting and writing out and stuff. So it's not enough that I know that they know, like for instance for the layers of the earth, yes, they know it, but they still have to do an output on it so that they learn scientific output as well, because this is the area that they want to go into. So I can do a lot of pre-planning for that, because I know we're going to do it. There's not going to be a big leap over it. Another area are their units, like Faster Fox's astronomy unit, extremely detailed planning. I planned out the entire module because I know that she's not going to leap over that. Salamander's building unit, that is really, I had to do pre-planning because he has major building projects for every single topic. So every week he's doing a building project every single week. So I even had to think about storage, like where are we going to store all these building projects, because he's going to be knocking out projects every week. Speedster's electronics course, and I don't think I mentioned on Friday, Salamander and Faster Fox are doing their electronics course. Speedster will be doing his electronics course more often. That is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that one was, I did a ton of detailed planning with that, because there's no leaping over it. You got to build the circuit. You got to make it sure that it works. You got to test it out. You have to be able to do all that writing. So that has detailed planning on my part. So basically mostly it's just our STEM stuff that has the detailed nitty-gritty day planning, everything all planned out at infinitum, all the things, all the materials purchased, all that sort of stuff. Math, I don't print things out. I don't really see any leaps happening with Art of Problem Solving. I don't see any leaps happening with Beast Academy. But the reason why we left Math Mammoth and went to CTC Math was because with CTC Math, I don't have to print anything out. If they go through the topic, they do it all, and they can move on. And so we're not sitting up here. I'm not kind of feeling a little pressure to make them do some work because I printed it all out. And so that's why having that sort of math class online was perfect for us, because they can just get their concept and go and move on, and life goes on. So that's really how that planning process takes place, how I go from what classes are we going to use to building the classes, building the courses, getting the curriculum, getting the materials, getting that nitty-gritty out, and then actually putting it into our day-to-day planning and getting it onto their desk, onto their shelves, so that they're ready to actually do what we planned. So that's that process. Like I said, I will do another video probably on a different day, because this one was really long, to show you exactly how I actually go through planning a class. Like I said, I may do Faster Fox's astronomy class, because I think that that'll be a good one to show you. And it's also one that a lot of people do that topic. So I'll show you what it's like to do astronomy with a younger child who's advanced in the topic. The building unit, I'm not going to do a video on that because it is it is the most detailed thing I have ever planned in my life. And I've been a college professor for 17 years, and I did not even have to put that much work in planning any of my classes that I teach my college students. I put more work into Salamander's building unit than I've ever put it in anything, including my dissertation. But it's done, and yes, let all of humanity rejoice with me on that. And then Speedster's electronics course, that was another really, really, really intense one because it expanded to where, after my husband really talked to me about it, it expanded beyond just kind of an introduction to electronics, and he's going to go really, really deep into it and end with a real official electronics certification. And that should happen. I'll let you guys know about it once the process is done. So, but yeah, that was a lot more planning than I had originally anticipated, but it's done. But I think the best course to show you guys for how I start from this is the topic we're going to do to having it all laid out and planned out and step by step, and getting ready for this daily planning. I think I'll do that with Faster Fox's astronomy course. I think that one will fit the best. So I hope this helps. It is long. Oh my gosh, this is long, and I am so sorry about that. But this is Dr. J, and I'm out. Bye-bye.